Have you been called out lately because you weren't wearing your mask? Or have you had your car keyed because of your out-of-province plates? Public shaming has a long tradition to be found in cultures around the world and down through the centuries. We've seen it used effectively in cases of sexual harassment and police brutality. But we've also seen it misused in schoolyard bullying, in the political arena to discredit opponents for their physical appearance or their mental abilities, and in the justice system by substituting trial by jury for trial by public opinion. In a year when all of humanity is anxious and worried, when our nerves are ragged, when safety rules and regulations seem to shift from week to week and conflicts are erupting regularly on our streets, maybe it's time to find an alternative to public shaming. Jesus offers us another approach. Hi there, my name is Ann Hogle. Welcome to this channel of weekly reflections about what it means to be spiritual beings having a physical experience, wherein I usually relate a Bible reading to what's happening in the world today. So let us begin. Let's be clear. In today's passage, Jesus is talking about resolving conflict within a group through conflict resolution, whose goal is to mend a broken relationship and restore harmony to the group. We're not talking about issues such as violent crime or physical or psychological abuse. And we also recognize that this passage refers to a period sometime after the death of Jesus when the church as a family of followers was trying to figure out how to resolve conflict. So the teachings of Jesus are placed in the context of conflict in the future church. So Jesus says, if another member of the church sins against you, well, go and point out the fault when the two of you are alone. Well, if you've ever been a member of any organization, you know that conflicts arise all the time and can easily undermine our sense of well-being and our desire to be part of this group. Conflict in a church setting is especially difficult because somehow we expect everyone to behave better than elsewhere. Maybe we think God is watching more particularly what goes on in God's church. So conflicts often go subterranean. We gossip, we grumble privately about the bullying methods of domineering characters. We hold private parking lot meetings to counter the leadership we disagree with. We put up with the obnoxious conduct of some because we don't want to lose their membership. These actions may relieve our frustration, may eventually even remove the irritating personality from our midst, but most definitely do not restore a broken relationship with those on the other side of a conflict. Let's face it, most of us don't like conflict. We try to avoid it. It makes us uncomfortable. But there is a term often used in psychotherapy called leaning into the discomfort. Jesus says, if someone hurts you, go and tell him. Oh, uncomfortable. Well, I have to say, I have given this approach a try. I've written out my long list of grievances. I've pumped myself up before I went to meet the offender. I may have gotten a little carried away and ended up shouting, but heck, at least I got that off my chest. Do I hear anyone asking, so how is that approach going for you so far? Well, actually, not so well. When I come before someone with my long list of complaints, I've already made up my mind. They're wrong and I'm right. They need to apologize. I'm not sure why, but frontal attacks like that rarely seem to work. In fact, they tend to get the door of reconciliation kind of slammed in my face. The conflict escalates. Instead, Jesus invites us to open the door of reconciliation by coming before the party we are disagreeing with humility, an open heart, and a sense of curiosity that we may not know the whole story. This takes courage. It takes compassion. It takes patience. How we go about bringing our grievances forward is just as important as the nature of the grievance itself. Buddhist monk Thich Nhat Hanh suggests saying something like, "Help me to understand your actions. What have I done to cause you to react in this way?" As we lean into this uncomfortable conversation with compassion and humility, we leave the door open to a greater understanding of the person who has wronged us. And we are showing that our relationship with this person is important and that we want to restore it. Of course, this approach may not work. Then Jesus suggests we should bring along a couple of witnesses to help with the conversation. And if that doesn't work, as a last resort, we should tell the whole church. In other words, public shaming. And if that still doesn't bring about repentance, then we are to treat the offender as a tax collector or even a Gentile, a non-Jew, the worst kind of an insult. But wait a minute here. Wasn't Matthew, the writer of today's gospel, a former tax collector? And didn't Gentiles eventually become the overwhelming majority of the followers of Jesus? In other words, we are never to give up. We are always to leave the door to reconciliation open as best we can. Because you never know. Down through the centuries, we have more often witnessed conflicts resolved by force of arms, leaving lasting wounds upon the losers. Insults are hurled across walls created by ethnic, cultural, racial, and language differences. Wounded pride and exaggerated revenge lead to retaliatory actions, and new wars begin all over again. So how can we reach harmony in the midst of our differences? How can we reconcile ourselves to past injustices and yet rectify current ones? When we look at the history of public shaming, we are hard-pressed to find a better example than the crucifixion of Jesus. Because that's what it was. But it backfired, didn't it? The way Jesus led his life, his attitudes towards even his accusers, and his utmost trust in the goodness of God, the goodness of life, continues to show us an alternative path. He did not use strong-arm tactics then, and he continues to appeal to the angels of our better natures now. With courage, compassion, and humility, we can find a better way to resolve our differences. We can. May it be so.
Thank you for listening to today's message. If you are interested in supporting this ministry or in becoming a part of any of the acts of service of our church is involved in, or in attending one of our Zoom church services, you can contact us via the website which is listed below this video. So until we meet again, blessings on the journey.